Okay, we'll go ahead and start our meeting. Thank everyone for coming this evening. We start our meeting with an invocation, then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance immediately after that. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us through this day so far. We just thank you for all the blessings that you bestow so generously upon each and every one of us every day, that we are so fortunate to inherit this earth that you have so generously given to us to take care of, and hopefully we can pass it on to the next generation, that it'll be a better place than it was when we came. We ask that you continue to guide us, help this council to make good decisions that would be pleasing and do well for our community, but most of all that they would be looked favorably upon you and your word. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we would need to adopt the business agenda. If you had an opportunity to look it over, if there are no conflicts, we need a motion to approve it as it is presented, or if there's any changes need to be made, let them be known.
I make a motion to adopt the business agenda as stated.
The motion is by Councilman Bell. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda will be approved as it is presented. Item 4 is public comment. We'd like to invite Mr. Brodsky to come forward and to the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Ephraim Brodsky. I live at 936 East 7th Street in Roanoke Rapids. Mayor, member of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. On the back of this page, I have included links to my letter to R.R. Spin, Boylan's study, Should Cities Disband Their Police Departments, and the predictive financial model that I built regarding the future of our city. I know you're listening, because at the last meeting, the mayor asked what percentage of the city budget goes to personnel expenses. The city manager noted that we provide preferred services that we are not required to provide, and the finance director pointed out that our tax rate is the lowest region. I've raised these issues before, and they go to the heart of what we could afford and what we choose to prioritize. At the department head budget request meeting, close to $6 million in basic infrastructure repair needs were requested, yet the budget amount proposed by the city manager at the last meeting is actually lower than last year's budget. That tells me that we are still trying to do more with less, and that is exactly why this discussion matters. We have to be honest about the bigger picture. We live in the 4th poorest county in the state, and Carolina Ford recently published a report saying that more than 41% of the personal income in our county comes from government checks. That means a large part of our local economy already depends on public money. In a place like this, every budget decision matters more. The research in our budget scenario point to the same basic idea. If we keep doing things the same way, we keep getting the same results. We stay under pressure. Taxpayers stay under pressure, and there's less room to invest in the services that people actually use every day. Boylan's study suggests that disbanding a police department can reduce costs and harmful outcomes without increasing overall crime. That means council should judge it not by habit or by who speaks the loudest, but by what works best for a small community that is always under a spotlight. The real question is not whether law enforcement matters. It is whether the current structure is the best and most affordable way to provide public safety for the whole city. If we choose dissolution, the city gains breathing room. That gives us a chance to lower the tax burden, protect basic services, and invest in parks, roads, and services that promote civic engagement, the things families actually see and feel in daily life. And we should be honest about the larger picture. All of the public schools in the region have been facing sharply declining enrollment for the past decade, which is another sign that our community needs a stronger long-term strategy, not just the same old structure. That raises a fair question about why we should keep paying for overlapping services and duplicate costs when we are already struggling so much at the local level. This is a hard decision, but the facts matter. Transferring law enforcement to the Halifax County Sheriff is not about weakening the city. It's about making the city more stable, more affordable, and better prepared for what comes next. Raising our taxes to pass another operational budget while our infrastructure crumbles is not an acceptable solution. By no means. Now, I have some more time. So I'd like to tell you what I found out at the county's land use meeting. Last week, they had a public land use meeting at the 4-H site in Halifax, where they unveiled the plan for their Parks and Recreation Department that they've built on a county level. And right now, the plan includes nothing in the 27870 zip code. And that includes Roanoke Rapids Incorporated and the unincorporated area of Roanoke Rapids. That represents 26,000 of the 45,000 people that live in this community. And they have no plans for us. Nothing. They're building a state-of-the-art athletic facility at the 4-H site in Halifax. Halifax has a population of 165 people. They're helping Hollister, an unincorporated community, build a sewer system. If they wanted amenities, they should incorporate. That's what we do. We incorporate, we pay a city tax, and that covers our amenities. They're also partnering with Hollister to build a recreation center down there in the farthest south portion of our county, and that's great. Everybody deserves services. But the reality is that Native American tribes have access to funding mechanisms that we don't. That's the truth. That's the whole truth. And we have hard decisions to make, and I know that the timing for this decision is probably poor because now the news came out that Mattel is going to build something here. And everybody's thinking that that's going to save us. The reality is that it won't. The only department that stands to gain from Mattel coming is tourism, because they're going to pull a 5% hotel occupancy tax from every room, but we're not going to see that money. We're not. That hotel system, while in Roanoke Rapids, is going to burden our services. It's going to bring up the costs for everything. And the money is going to be redistributed throughout the county. The sales tax money will go to everybody, not just to us. And these are things we need to think about when we're making these decisions. These decisions are hard for a lot of you. We have former law enforcement here. A lot of people are law enforcement adjacent. But law enforcement people will get jobs. There is a shortage in the community. This isn't going to hurt the people. It will help us. Please, make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brodsky. We have some individuals that have signed up for unscheduled public comment. Mr. Davis.
Joey Davis, Raleigh Street, Mayor, Council, and guests. Like I've said at these meetings before, I love to see people come up here, sign up and use your voice instead of using your fingers on Facebook. You accomplish more that way. I've been here 46 years. I was a delivery driver in 2 locations that these things occurred. 2 things that brought this town down. Number 1, the cotton mills. I was delivering there. The greatest thing in the world was the unions coming to town. Well, the union came to town and looked at the mills. They shut them down. The next thing is the theater out here. Now, I was out there when it was built, Randy Prodden and the former mayor and all. We had to have this land from Weldon. We need to annex this land from Weldon. We got to have it in Roanoke Rapids. So we got it. Okay? It failed. And I do not blame the people, I've said before, that bought it. They got a steal of a deal. But I'm thinking my calculations, was it about $5 million still owed on it? Okay, $5 million. Look at what, if it had been sold at a regular price, look what those millions of dollars could be doing for this city, fixing up different things. And what really gets me now is, I don't blame the people. We're paying the debt. You ride by there, and lo and behold, Weldon's on the theater building. The same people we took the land from. So I say, hats off to Weldon, well done. Thank y'all.
Mr. Williams.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Troy Williams. I live at 130 Hunting Ridge Road. I moved here, I guess, when I was probably 18 years old. I've worked hard to get everything I've got, and really I have achieved a lot. My question is, and problem is, I know y'all talking about raising taxes up. But I went through a few of my rental houses just to see how much my tax value went up in 4 years. My house on 7th Street went up $20,000 value in 4 years. My house on Hunting Ridge Road went up $65,000 in 4 years. My house on Washington Street went up $61,000 in 4 years. My house on 8th Street went up $36,000 in 4 years. And everybody talks about how they have not raised the percentage up, but I think that added up to $182,000 just 4 of my houses. Now, I got 29. That's just 4 of them. So I don't understand where all this money is going. I look at what I paid 5 years ago and what I pay today. And it's almost doubled. And I don't understand if I'm paying double, just me, myself. I think it is 6,895 homes in the city of Roanoke Rapids. So I don't understand where this money is going. 2007, when I bought my house on 130 Hunting Ridge Road, I was paying $1,119 a year in property taxes. 2022, I was paying $3,162. 2025, I'm paying $4,075. I mean, that's 4 times as much as what I was paying when I first moved in my house 19 years ago. And yeah, I own 30 houses. Well, yeah, 30 houses. But people think all this is falling on the homeowners. But when your taxes go up like this, it hurts the renters too and other people. Because if I'm paying 3 times as much taxes on my stuff, that means I got to trickle it down. And I don't like doing it because I do care. I know everybody's struggling in Roanoke Rapids. I just gonna fix up a house. I was getting $700 a month for this house. I spent $20,000 on this house. Now I'm getting $900 a month. So I spent $20,000 to get $200 a month because I do care what my stuff looks like, and I want to keep my stuff up. I'm not a slumlord. I'm just trying to understand where all this money is going. Yeah, because like I said, I'm just talking about what mine went up. Out of 30 houses, so that's 6,865 more houses in Roanoke Rapids that went up too, because all my other ones average going up between $5,000 and $15,000 a piece.
You need to sum it up. You're just about out of time.
Okay, that's basically what I want to say. Is I just don't understand where all this money is going. I wish everybody knew where the money was going, because if I'm paying 3 times as much taxes as I was 4 years ago, where's the money at? Where's it going?
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Yes, sir. Is it Forbes? Good evening.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager. My name is Brian Forbes. I live at 937 Wilson Street. I've been living here all of my life. My parents grew up here. I'm also a volunteer of the Roanoke Valley Rescue Squad. I've been volunteering there for about 30 years. My father volunteered there, and so did my grandfather. I'm coming to you to give you an update. I am the new commander for the rescue squad. I just wanted to let you guys know what we've been up to. In 2025, Roanoke Valley responded to 1,078 calls, and this resulted in the volunteers volunteering over 21,000 man hours that they gave to the community. If you were to use that or turn that into a dollar value, that dollar value would be very near to $800,000. In 2025, they spent a total of 720 hours in training. We are well above that. Now, at this point, we're probably going to double that for this year. We've stepped up our training. We are also been trying to streamline our operations and try to do more with less, as they say. But I am here to ask you guys to strongly consider, and I know this has got to be the worst time to ask, but the squad desperately needs that 2% that we had asked for earlier in the year. And I know that you guys have got some very difficult decisions to make. But I will remind you that Roanoke Valley does provide a fantastic value for the dollars that we get. I think we're in the neighborhood of $86,000 in 2025, and we were able to provide near about $800,000 of value. We're on track to surpass that this year. But the problem that we're running into is we don't have the funding to replace aging equipment. So our rescue truck, the first out rescue truck, the one that we depend on the most, is well over 20 years old. Our boat, so everybody knows that there is a missing person going on right now at the boat ramp here in town. Well, our first out boat is 44 years old. And of course, when that call came in, that boat wouldn't run. So we had to depend on an outside agency to come help us out with that. It took a couple of days for me to get parts and get things together to get that boat running. It does run now, but again, we're responding to these emergencies in a boat that's 44 years old.
Okay, go ahead and try to sum it up.
So I'm here to ask you guys to strongly consider that 2%. It is vital to the squad's operation, and if I didn't believe in the squad, and I didn't believe that the squad had value for the citizens, I'm a citizen too, I definitely wouldn't be standing here in front of you.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Yes, sir. Item 5 is the approval of the May 5th City Council meeting minutes. We would need a motion to approve them.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the May 5th, 2026 regular city council meeting minutes as drafted.
Motion is by Ms. Bryant and second is by Mr. Steinbach. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The minutes will be approved as they are presented. Item 6 is new business. Call on the Finance Director, Ms. Johnson, for a budget amendment in the Fire Department.
Good evening. The fire department received another donation for the Veterans Breakfast, $250. So I'd ask you to adopt ordinance number 2026.21.
Okay, I'm just going to ask we did more than one at the time, the last time. Do we-
That's the only one I have left.
all right,
Yeah,
okay.
only one I have left.
Just asking. So we need a motion for the Fire Department donations.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.21 in the amount of $250 for donations to the fire department for the Veterans Breakfast.
Okay, the motion is by Councilman Strickland. Do we have a second to his motion? Second by Mr. Jackson. Any more discussion on the matter? There being none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Ms. Johnson, I believe you had the next item.
Yes, Main Street, they're doing the Liberty on Main Parade and Festival for the July 4th. They've received entry fees in the amount of $300. So I would like to ask you to approve ordinance number 2026.22.
Okay, do we hear such a motion?
Mayor, I'll motion to adopt ordinance number 2026.22 in the amount of $300 for the entry fees to Main Street for the library on Main Street, on the main parade festival.
Liberty.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is by Mr. Steinbach. Do you hear a second? Second by Mr. Bell. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And
Thank
call
you.
on the city manager for audit service update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Couple months ago, our auditor, or longtime auditor, informed us that he would not be renewing the audit contract for the current fiscal year and beyond due to retirement, which left us in a position that we haven't been in probably 20 years. And so from that, we brought this to the council's attention and completed a request for proposals process for auditing services under the guidelines from the Local Government Commission. And at the close of the RFP process on May the 13th at 3, the city finance director received one proposal in response to the RFP. That proposal has been submitted to you for your consideration. The one proposal meets the criteria, but the city's purchasing policy, which is fairly outdated, it was, I think, developed in 2013 at this point, but stipulates a minimum of 3 bids, which is actually more restrictive than the procurement policies established and set forth by the state of North Carolina and the federal levels, which call for a reasonable number of responses to an RFP. Combined with the city's good financial standing, we believe and also the difficulties that exist of trying to find a municipal auditor, we believe that it may be reasonable to receive only one bid response. However, according to the general statutes, this is a decision that rests with the city council to appoint and approve an auditor contract or an auditor to contract with. If the city council wants to move forward with this sole responding firm, the approval will be subject to the city council waiving your own policy and accepting one bid instead of 3. Alternatively, you could direct us to advertise another RFP process, and it would probably take at least 30 days and bring that back to you. As we know, the end of the fiscal year is approaching on June the 30th. The audit contracts are for 1-year terms. We did request a quote or an estimate of 3 years of fiscal year accounting, so that would be for the current year, FY26, and then FY27 and 28. And those estimates are relatively competitive with what we've been paying our current auditor all along, and the estimates are in line with our budget. No surprises. And so, subject to any questions you may have, we'd like for council to either provide a motion to waive the policy and approve the responding firm, which is BRC, for entering an audit contract, or to re-advertise and go through another RFP process with the understanding that we may not get any other responses. That concludes my presentation at this time. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So they do meet our criteria that's required to be recommended.
From what we've gathered, yes, they met the expectations. They serve several communities in North Carolina. There's just I don't have the statistics in front of me, but across North Carolina, there's probably over 100 municipalities that still cannot get an auditor to work for them. And those could be small cities and towns. We don't know what their situations are, but municipal auditors are becoming even more rare to find than probably certified librarians. But it's a challenge, but again, I don't want council to feel pressured with either one of the options, but tonight we do need direction to either pursue a contract with BRC or cast the net out again, and we'll see what happens.
The company that is currently doing the audits, I know they've been doing it a long time, but was their contract year to year also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you and I were discussing for today the fee that this company is offering to do it for is fairly within range. I mean,
it's what we would expect from our current auditor.
And did we have to advertise it? I guess we did and we usually didn't get any other offers, did we? Most time we didn't get any?
Oh, excuse me. We haven't done an RFP for an auditing firm
so we just had to
in a very long time.
Contract with them.
Yes, we've done a continued contract. So if we choose to, if the council selects BRC to contract with, and you have a good year, we won't have to go through another audit or RFP process next year. We can do a new you could consider a new contract next year. Annually, council is required to enter a new contract, and so there are no long-term obligations. But you do hope to develop at least a 5-year relationship with an auditor due to the level of work and detail required. So while you would hope it'd be a longer-term thing, but this is currently a request for 1 year.
Mr. Mayor, I can add a little bit.
Mr. Davis?
I was dreading the day when Mr. Redmond retired, because his firm has been so good, has been such a good relationship with the city. By law, we're supposed to have audits every year. The city has always done them and has always done very well at those audits. But as the city manager said, it's become increasingly difficult to find folks that will do them, and they're in demand. And so I was kind of surprised when I saw the number, how reasonable that was, since it's essentially a market that the auditors, I feel like, are valued. That said, even though the city does have this purchasing policy, we're not required to have it in this case, and it's certainly much more restrictive than I feel like most other municipalities would have. There is absolutely no legal problem from a legal standpoint with council waiving it in this case, given the fact that it has been advertised and solicited, and they have responded. But I guess repeating what the city manager has said, it's really council's decision. If council would feel more comfortable re-advertising it, there's no problem with that. Or, if council wants to go ahead and waive the policy and approve this one, that's perfectly fine too from a legal standpoint. I don't think it's a situation where if it's re-advertised that this firm would back out or suddenly say, well, we got more busy, but I guess that's always a concern when you don't have an agreement set. So in any case, from a legal standpoint, there's no problem with waiving the policy. I just wanted council to know that.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we need some guidance for the city manager.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the policy of the audit services contract.
And,
Okay.
and as part of your motion, would you also add to waive the current purchasing policy?
And to waive the policy and approve the audit services contract.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was by Mr. Strickland and the second by you, Keith.
Yes.
Mr. Bell. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. And we have the public hearing, the city manager.
No public hearing tonight, but
Yeah,
I'll take the next
discussion
item.
on it.
We will need to schedule a public hearing soon, but let me approach us there on that as I deliver a brief budget message and an overview of the budget. That is still we have a budget, but this has been a very difficult budget year to balance. We're really seeing a lot of effects of increased costs, especially in the wake of COVID and many other events taking place globally that cause price fluctuations and so forth. Let's see here. Hold on one second. Oh, here's my note. All right. So pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 159-11, a proposed budget beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027 is, together with this budget message, submitted to you. There's an attached packet behind you with several spreadsheets that we will post online tonight, or excuse me, by tomorrow sometime. But which is due by June 1. We have to deliver a budget message and budget by June 1, so we're meeting this requirement. One of our greatest challenges has been the outpacing, expenditures are outpacing revenues. We continue to do more with less. We continue to cut our budgets, do things like that, delay projects, defer maintenance, and the expenditures keep rising at different rates, but our revenues have slowed down. In the upcoming year, we are anticipating a revenue loss compared to this year of about $884,000. And that has to do with just various state estimates or projections from state revenues. Again, in budgeting, it's appropriate to underestimate your revenues and overestimate your expenditures. But there's a very fine line in this budget of revenues and expenditures, but revenues, I'm still hopeful that we still may exceed what is projected. Fiscal year 27, we are projecting just under $19 million in revenue. So that revenue loss equates to about a 4% compared to the current year. The proposed expenditures, at the current draft of 5/19/2026, today's date, our current expenditures as of today proposed are $21,113,732. Do quick math, yes, that is a difference of just about $2 million. We are we're asking for consideration to recommend an ad valorem property tax rate increase. This as an option to help offset or to bring back some, or to offset some of the revenue loss. For example, a 4-cent increase from the current rate would generate $560,640 in revenue in property taxes. This rate, in combination with other sources, including fund balance for the upcoming year and significant cuts, bring the budget to the current recommended amount. Taking these additional revenues into account, if we were to go with a 4-cent increase, that would bring our gap down to about $1.6 million. The proposed budget, is reflected by our recent financial condition and performance. Our audits reflect strong tax collection performance. The county has had a very solid position. Our relationship with Halifax County and the collection of our property taxes results in a much higher collection rate percentage due to the fact that people can't piecemeal their tax bills. If they were to receive a tax bill from the city, from the county, from the school district, and every other taxing entity, individuals would make a choice as to which one they were going to pay and in what order. And through the county and through the processes of tax collection there, those efforts are very successful, especially compared to other surrounding areas. So it's a good job on that. We do pay the county, or the county does, by our contract, take 2% off of the top of all collections, which equates to about $200,000 a year. That amount would probably, for us, it would be about 1.5 positions to do the work. And so we do still feel like the county collecting it, and for the benefits of the high collection percentage, to maintain that relationship. We do collect the school district's portion from the county, and then we disperse that to the Roanoke Rapids Graded School District with no surcharge or fee for doing so. The current recommendation, right now, I would like to recommend that we consider holding an additional budget workshop before we have a public hearing, or around the same time. I believe that we have some difficult decisions that we will have to make in the future going forward, but one of those difficult decisions, I want to go ahead and say, we will be maintaining, or my recommendation will always be to maintain our police department. I want our police department to understand that. That is not an option to save money for us right now. We're not that bad off. And I'm not recommending dissolving the police department in our budget. In fact, we're recommending funding them, and with trying to incentivize, provide some incentives for recruitment and retention of our valued law enforcement officers. But speaking of that, public safety spending is very high, and it's grown exponentially globally, nationwide. Prices have increased in public safety things. And I've said it recently, it's kind of like the new wedding term. You say wedding and they add 30%. Public safety things are expensive. It is expensive to maintain, but compared to our current tax collections, ad valorem tax collections for the city, so what we bill our citizens covers our public safety budget, that police and fire. And then also it has enough to cover the insurance payments that we have to make to the state. Excuse me, not insurance, retirement rates, I'm sorry, the Liger's contributions. So let me move to the little staple packet of graphs that are before you. The first page is at the top of it under City of Roanoke Rapids, says revenue summary. This shows the actual revenues from 2025 compared to what was adopted last year for the current fiscal year, and what the estimated 27 values are, and then that percent change. So the ad valorem rate, or current revenue that is shown in here under the recommended column, just under 9 million, that is using the current tax rate. That is not an inflated, that shows no adjustment increase. That is what it would be. These calculations are based on our current tax rate. On the message page, I've indicated what a tax increase would be and have provided additional information of kind of what each value, or each cent is about 140,000. So you'll see that the growth is about 3% from last year for our tax rate. Ad valorem taxes, since the last revaluation, we've seen a little bit of growth in 1 year, but with the last valuation, overall real estate taxes really only increased by like 0.01%, if I remember correctly. We have seen some of our sales tax revenues starting to cool. They really peaked during the pandemic timeframe years, a lot of it due to people being home more and getting incentives, additional revenues for spending to keep the economy stimulated. And we're starting to see some things level off, but Roanoke Rapids still maintains a little bit higher degree of sales tax, since we are more of a regional market in our area, Halifax, Northampton being the commercial center for our region here. The next page, at the top, under City of Roanoke Rapids General Fund Budget, this is the expense summary by department code. So this is all expenses, and we have these department codes and the description of them, and then you'll see this compared to the actual expenditures in 2025, and those actual numbers, are from the closeout of the fiscal year, not what was adopted. The FY26 adopted is what was from the budget adopted for this current year, and then FY 2027 is the recommended amounts. And then the percent change from the adopted budget compared to the FY 27 recommendation. So you'll see the kind of percent change in some of the cost here. I'll point out, like, one of the major ones has been for information systems, having to increase for IT and other securities involving our softwares and use of internet devices, especially for protecting confidential and personally identifying information. And again, the total increase in recommended expenses, the total increase in expenses is about 6% higher than the current year adopted budget. The next page, under our name, has general government. So in this first page, on the page that says at the top here, the graph that says 110 general government, when we filter some of our expenses, general government also includes, and if we categorize our expenses, it includes administration, human resources, finance, Main Street, legal, information systems, elections, and so that page breaks down a little bit more detailed of what the general government costs are to the city. This also includes our liability insurances, and pretty much most of the fees are leases, copy machine, all sorts of operating expenses for the general government. The next page goes on to public safety. Fire in that kind of reddish color and police in blue, appropriately. What this shows is our public safety category, and public safety, it shows the FY27 public safety budget at about $8.25 million, or a 10% increase over the current year. Of the public safety budget, the police represents about 64% of it, with fire about 36%. The next page represents the public works departments. Everything falls under the public works department, but in our budgeting software, there's other, what we call, divisions that fall under the category of public works, and that includes the government buildings, central garage, street, property maintenance, building maintenance, solid waste, refuse, and cemetery. That recommendation is about 3% increased over the current year for the total, and let's see here. And then if you go to the next page, at the top it references the Parks and Recreation departments and divisions. That includes TJ, the Aquatic Center, Challoner, Joe Story, Andrews, Meeting Hall, Community Civic Center, Library, Canal Museum, Parks, and then also some special programs, tourism, and a transportation grant that assists with the senior center. That actually shows a decrease of 3% compared to the current fiscal year overall. The planning budget, again, has a 1% increase, which is on the following page. It's just one big blue dot. Then the next page here at the top says 110 general government. This breaks down more of the general government expenditures that are reflected on the second page of your document at the top under 110. General government, that includes Christmas bonuses, some employee incentives some contributions for insurances, retiree insurances, liability insurance expenses, and the standard things in here. So that shows about a 9% increase compared to the current fiscal year that we are in. The next page is a summary of personnel services. So this gives you an idea of where we are with personnel cost. And I want to state and acknowledge that our personnel costs are high. Most cities and towns and local governments average about 65% of their overall budget on personnel costs. We are a service industry provided by people for the most part, and so you'll see, unlike private business where your personnel costs may be lower, personnel services are our greatest expense area, coming in at just over $14 million for fiscal year 27. This personnel services line shows And on the table behind it, it corresponds with it. There's a personnel services table behind it that gives you a little bit more detail than the graph. But it shows it is about a 10% increase compared to the current year. There is included in there a 3% COLA for all full-time employees as part of the increase in there, and also pay for performance incentives for merit increases to stay in line with the MAPS group study that was completed and implemented this current year. Let's go to the next page. Operating expenses, non-personnel. So I've got your personnel expenses on those 2 pages, one with a pie graph and a table, and then on the next one, the top of it states operating expenses, non-personnel. And I point this out to show that the vast difference between personnel expenses and non-personnel as far as our operating costs are concerned. Fiscal year 27, we're estimating over $5 million compared to the about $14.5 million. No percent change, but our budget, like I said, the majority of it does serve the personnel funds. I don't think that the departments have any other places to cut, because where we are right now is extremely lean. And we have buildings and facilities and properties that need maintenance work, and they do need improvements, but we're having to cut out and defer projects and to reduce these things in order to make a budget for other rising costs. So the page that, if you turn the page to the one there's at the top, it says equipment tools. You'll see here how we allocate our spending for just equipment and tool expenses. And you can see here that there's an 18% reduction compared to the current fiscal year. These numbers should be much higher. In certain cases, let me say this. That's for equipment and tools. It's the next page, probably should be much higher. Fire department is typically much higher, especially in the last few years, because we have been continuing to fund for the new fire trucks and the equipment going on those. So that is why you're going to see more increase in certain spending there. Mostly in general, like the equipment and tools may helps our employees get their work done. Now the last page here is maintenance and repair. And I bring this again to your attention because I'm looking at the bottom number for fiscal year 27, and it's $585,210, or a 9% decrease from the current fiscal year. This is not adequate to take care of our buildings and facilities and properties under maintenance and repair. And however, again, it's about having to defer certain needs and needing some guidance and direction on where we go. The personnel, I'll kind of go back to the personnel cost and looking at kind of the impact or comparative summary really of what they were. But in 2010, for example, since 2010 and compared to fiscal year 2025, the actuals, and I haven't double checked my numbers, so the reporting, but it doesn't matter. If anyone wants to correct them for me, please do. So in 2010, our public safety personnel costs compared from 2010 to 2025 increased over 61%. More importantly, the local government retirement system from 2010 to 2025 increased 340%. We do not have more employees than we had in 2010. We have less employees. And so, and the LIGER goes for the full-time employees. This is a mandatory contribution. We have no option. This goes to the state retirement system. those rates have increased every year. So really in 2010, the city's contribution was just under 300,000. This current year, we're spending over $1 million just in retirement. 1.4 million for fiscal year 27. And that is a requirement before we even start work. So, tax revenues ad valorem has increased in that 15-year period 38%. And that's just the revenue amounts have increased. Unrestricted intergovernmental funds, that is where we have seen some increase over the years. Some of that includes your sales taxes and so forth. That increased 53% in that 15-year period. And then as a result of all of that, our general fund revenues have increased 49% over that time. But again, this year coming up, we are seeing a revenue decline as expenses continue to increase. So that's why by 2025, the $9.5 million or $9.9 million in property tax revenue that was collected essentially covered our public safety cost and in 2025 the $1 million to the Laggers pension contributions. So when we're asking like kind of relatively where our tax money can go, public safety and employee retirements covers majority of it. There have been some efforts by the state to try to slow the laggers and study these contribution rates, but again, it's part of the evolving politics. We go along the way. We support legislation that tries to reduce our burden annually, but it continues to increase. This draft budget does not include some grants that we may or may not get, so there could be some other revenue opportunities there. Let's see. I guess at this point, does anyone have any, or would you like to ask me any questions?
I would like to interject something to the public that when we look at today's events, especially when you look at the personnel and you see that large portion of personnel, we actually are kind of low compared to, let's say, school systems. School systems on the average about 80% of their budget, somewhere 75% is personnel, including benefits such as retirement, insurance, support, things of that sort. And to look at the retirement system, I know some people are saying, well, you know, that's a whole lot, you know, when you put in a retirement system. As the city manager said, this is mandatory by the state. I'll give you a prime example. In one of my previous careers, and I'm going to tell you my previous careers, I've been an Army soldier, retired from that. I actually worked as a corrections officer at a maximum security prison about 4.5 years. That's not on the site, but I actually did that in Virginia. And I also was a teacher, but I was a school administrator for 19 years. And what I began to see, and when the wave came over in the state legislature in 2012, when they came in, that group of people that took over, basically most things, they became the majority in the state legislature. One of the things they started doing was, you've seen that we're wanting more business friendly, attract more businesses from outside of the state into the state now, because one of the things, our state tax rate has been lowered consistently. Well, what has happened is that one of the main places we hit is Department of Education. What I saw as an administrator was that when I first became an administrator at that time, our tax rate, as far as like what the school system or the employees had to pay their portion of the retirement, was something like about 6-point-some%. The school systems paid 7%. The state would pay the other 80, I believe it was 87%. Well, what happened every year, our legislators started to chip away, not just on the school system, but also like local government retirement systems. And then what they started to do was require the local, such as us, to start to contribute more. The employees stayed the same, but we started contributing more. By the time I retired, 10 years later, from when they came in 2012, the school system had gone from supplying 7-point-something% to 22%, which would equate here, say if it was us, that would have meant for $1 million that we would have had to, it would have gone up another $150,000 a year. So it is not, it's something that, as the city manager said, we want to save money and we want to reduce stress on the citizens, because that's our purpose, to be good stewards of the revenue that we bring in. But when the state does things like that, we need the public to be educated. And I hope I did educate some of you in here tonight as to that's one of the reasons. Because sometimes we make erroneous statements verbally, publicly, social media, things of that sort, and we haven't gone and we haven't done our research to find out something I just told you. And you can check that on the website. You can go back to the state website and look at those type of things, and you'll see the trend. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to add that, you point out that, so really a minimum of about 21% for a civilian employee, 21% of their paycheck goes to the retirement system before it hits their pocket. So, and for a law enforcement officer, it's about 23.5% of your paycheck is directed to the retirement system.
And I would like to say one thing to the law enforcement, to the people working in the fire department, to people working in finance, human resources, public works, whatever. You're worth every penny.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Not as a general rule. No, sir, not. We don't have input from the community.
And Mr. Davis, we're going to set a public budget hearing after tonight. So the budget's not going to be approved tonight, but there will be a public budget hearing where you can come and speak and be heard. But if we started letting everybody talk out of turn.
Well, I understand. The only thing I'm saying is.
Well, no, we don't.
It will be later at night, but more people, taxpayers, will come to the meeting. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Andy?
We're talking about losing revenue. What is the city doing to try to increase what we're losing?
It's a great question.
Business-wise.
As far as business-wise,
It's like the city of Morganton, you can read about. They abated taxes on new businesses coming in, but they set up a timetable for them. They had to be built in a certain length of specific time. And they got a tax reduction, streamlined building permits.
Again, I'm not familiar with the program, but, we have moved our permit system online. That has resulted in much faster processing and but if you're asking about any incentives for new businesses, that's not included in the budget. But ad valorem taxes is our largest single source of revenue. Consideration of a tax increase is the most efficient way to go about receiving that. We can increase our user fees. A copy of which is a great segue. Another attachment of stapled papers that you have is the fee schedule, the draft fee schedule. I have one here somewhere. Yes, that'd be great. There's a draft fee schedule that has been prepared. This is still, again, draft, it's working. This shows our fee schedule. Now, any changes that have been proposed, several of the departments weighed in on this, would be to increase fees. So our residential solid waste fee that goes to help fund our refuse and trash collection, to increase that by $10 up to $305 $8 per year, which is part of the tax bill, and that would be for residential and commercial users. We have over 6,000 residential users in the system. Increasing the motor vehicle tax from $11 to $15 would result in additional revenues. That goes for vehicles that are registered in the city limits. There's other fees and so forth, but mostly our fees you have to look at from an incremental standpoint, and also it depends on user behavior. It depends on people choosing to rent or to build or to complete certain actions. So the fee schedule, while we could try to charge certain fees, again they go to help offset some costs, but they are not. Our billing, our fee structure is not really cost-based. We're a public service, and so we try to make it affordable for our residents to be able to use the facilities and participate in programs, try to keep those costs down, those daily fees. So, but that is prepared before you. We welcome any recommendations for increases, as a new fee schedule is part of the adopted budget in the ordinance. We have until July the 1st to adopt a budget. So today is the 19th of May. We don't want to wait until June 30th, but we have some work to do to consider some cost measures and then set forth a plan looking into the future. The city has made investments into some software programs that we are continuing to implement and navigate the bells and whistles that they come with, and we do believe that could help with maybe reducing just a couple positions as certain retirements may occur, but there's no guarantee there. But those services are keeping us from having to hire about 5 additional people to process things the way we used to do it. We are gaining a lot of efficiencies in our new systems that we have just been using for 12 months and about just over 6 months in the other. So it does take some time to realize those as they are also being developed and implemented as well. What other questions do we have?
Mr. Steinbeck?
Just like to speak briefly about some comments that have been made in the community recently about ideas how to make our town better. One of them would be merging our public safety departments to volunteerism groups, or defunding the police department and letting the county take it over. These are novel ideas in my opinion, and a lot of this is being led by people that don't even live in the city. They're spearheading this thing. They're not even residents here. They don't depend on our public safety officers here. And for some reason, I don't think this would work if we did away with our police department and fire department, that overnight this place would be the great place everybody wanted to come to. So with that said, there would be no way I could support that in any form or fashion, doing away with our public safety when these guys are out here now. They're working generally, I don't know how many officers we're short now. It floats between 8 and 14 generally, which is equivalent to 2 whole shifts of police officers. Many times just several years ago we had 7 men on a shift, and now we're lucky to work with 4, sometimes 3. The administrators are having to come out and work shift work on the weekends, and I appreciate what y'all do, and I know times right now are lean. Hopefully we'll come out of this hole that was not created by us. This was left for us many years ago, a lot of debt. And we've got that down appreciably now. We don't owe near as much as what we used to owe. And I can see light at the end of the tunnel myself and hope that we get there sooner than later. But I will not support any defunding of our public safety. Thank you.
I'll just say briefly, I concur with Councilman Steinbach on that. I can't see defunding any of the public services, especially the police or the fire department.
Say something?
I concur. When I think about living in the city and having a response time of about 3 minutes compared to maybe 45 in the county, that alone makes me just know that we have to keep our police department.
Mr. Bill, you have anything?
I concur with everybody. Our police and fire department, they do a fine job, and they do a lot with little. But the thing about it is that they have a vested interest. Most of the people in the fire department, police department, many of them grew up here. They have family. And when you get people that are vested in the community, they do a lot better job because their heart's in it. They don't look at pay first. They're just great people. And I said, we appreciate everything you do.
I believe that the city's main function should be to keep people safe. And police and fire have a prominent effort in that. So I also concur with the rest of my council about the safety of the citizens is something people talk about quality of life. Well, being safe is about as high quality as you can have, and I think that would help when people are looking at relocating in our community, that having good fire department, police department that has respect and gets the job done, and as we all are proud of our employees that work here. So I believe that we need to keep that strong. It makes me feel good at night when I lock my door and go to bed that those people out there working, trying to keep us safe. So we do. We all appreciate it very much. If, like Mr. Steinbach said, if any of y'all think y'all want to go out there, and that includes the people listening to, with like 2 or 3 more people and work a shift at night, I think you would have a real high appreciation for those men and women that are out there performing a service for us. So very, very important. Anything else to me would be second, third down the line from police and fire. And I'm not picking on anybody, but those are just things that are, in my opinion, you got to have them. And you got to have good ones, and we do. So thank you all. All right,
Mayor and
Deb.
Council, I just want to say thank you for the consensus on that matter of police and fire and maintaining those public services. So we will continue to move forward and without any changes to that service level.
Okay, so what do you need from us? You said you want to have a workshop. Are we going to schedule the
Well, I imagine,
public hearing after that, or are we looking for a date tonight, or what?
well, we can either have a workshop on the 2nd, or we can do a public hearing on another date. What I would recommend that we do is have a workshop or earlier, and then have the public hearing on the 2nd, receive information, and just for everyone listening in and paying attention, when you have a public hearing, the budget, you have to have a public hearing and receive comments. That's a statutory requirement before you adopt a budget. Public input is desired. Facebook is not the forum for public comment. We understand that citizens have very busy lives. We understand that coming to a meeting can be a challenge, and we are welcome to, or I guess, like to kind of pose maybe the suggestion of creating a limited form for feedback on the budget, maybe an online comment form, or come up with something to solicit feedback for those. But the most important thing is that we hear from people who have vested interest in our community. We need people who actually, live, who would be subject to, any changes in the budget, residents, property owners, and so forth. Sometimes when you open up public comment, you'll have people nationwide who have no idea what's happening, and they'll get paid a few dollars to go online and complete a form. So that's what I want to say is we really want the citizens' feedback on our budget and our spending priorities. We know that they want quality. We know that our citizens in general want quality facilities. They see the improvements needed just like we do. And it's really going to effectively take a village, and I want to commend our Parks and Recreation Department, who really has done a lot with almost nothing through fundraising and donations and keeping programming alive where they've lost staff back in the, prior to 2010, lost a significant number of full-time staff and have still continued to maintain things. Our city was developed and by the mill industry, and the mill provided these parks and recreation facilities and opportunities and schools, and now they're all gone, and we're kind of, there's a mass, we have a lot of property, and I think sometimes we go through our days and it really has a small town feel here, but we have to remember when you look statewide compared to our peers, we really are a small city and a gateway into North Carolina when you're coming in from 95. I believe there's still a lot of opportunity out in the entertainment district. We understand that there is renewed interest there, and so there could be, but we also have to live in reality too, and that's why I think that in the upcoming year we need to have probably more of a budget committee that could work towards making some recommendations for efficiency improvements that could take place over the next 3 years to help effectively reduce our overall operating costs, kind of come up and see what we can do. Sitting down to do a budget for an annual fiscal year is not the time to kind of throw out some major changes without proper evaluation, but again, it's our duty and responsibility to be responsible of the taxpayer funds and make the best use of it while providing services. And as we currently stand, we're working on our needs, but the needs for spending are going to continue to increase. Our revenues can be challenging, but we do see flexibility. Revenues have gone up and down over the years, and a lot of it depends on what's happening, again, at the global level, with populations, with economics and spending. I'd be glad to take any other questions at this time. Or as far as a workshop, we can poll you tomorrow and get that scheduled as a special meeting. If you want to consider a motion to schedule the public hearing on June the 2nd as tentatively scheduled in the budget calendar.
To the public?
Yes, sir.
Correct, okay.
Kelly, I think it's important too for the public to understand that in 2018-19, we were operating off an $18 million budget. And in 25-26, it's a little over 19 million, which it hasn't increased but 9.9%.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, in 2024, the council that was here at that time elected to go down 2 cents on the tax to remain neutral,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe hurt.
Well, just as a correction, I'll interrupt you. The 2-cent reduction didn't bring us to revenue neutral.
No,
It was
did.
still above revenue neutral, but it did decrease.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was about $800,000, I think, what it brought in.
You know, with all that said, tires have increased by 25% in cost. Gas has increased. It was $2.72 a gallon in 2018.
Okay.
As you can see, we kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
All right. Do you need a motion for this June 2nd, or we just, okay. Attorney said we do, so if y'all want to have.
We need to make a motion to set the date for the public hearing,
Yeah.
and I guess we're talking about doing a work session too.
We don't need a motion to
Okay.
set the date on the work session. We can set that and advertise it as required.
All right, when you want to have the hearing? When you
Let's
want-
schedule the hearing for June the 2nd and maintain
Okay,
that.
That's when we're having that. Okay,
Yes.
I had that for the workshop. Okay, June 2nd.
I mean,
Okay,
if the workshop happens afterward, we
We
could
need a,
we could
a
utilize
motion.
the public hearing information.
we need a motion for that. Workshop on the 2nd.
No,
No.
no, set the
Public
public
hearing.
hearing on the budget. Sorry.
All right, I think she told me that. Okay. Whatever she wants, say it.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to schedule the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget at the June 2nd, 2026 City Council meeting.
Second.
Okay. Motion's by Ms. Bryant, and second by Mr. Steenback. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. City manager's report.
Actually, I'm going to ask our Main Street Director, Ashley, to come up and share a few things that are going on with Main Street that I think would be timely and important. But while she's approaching the podium, I do want to mention one other thing that is noteworthy when we're talking about budgeting. There are there's a House Bill 1042 in the General Assembly that is seeking to make some corrections to an exemption in property taxes. So affordable housing, well, affordable housing is great, but there has been a tax loophole that has been discovered from a court case that occurred maybe back 10 years ago or more. And that loophole exemption in the current tax code for the state allows affordable housing to not have to pay property taxes, and all they have to have is a minimum of like 0.1% nonprofit ownership. So it could be a 99.9% for-profit business that has 0.1% nonprofit status, and they're not paying property taxes. We have several that are now qualifying, which has impacted our ad valorem collections. The House Bill 1042 is about revising that, because many municipalities and counties are facing this dilemma now. For example, I think Wake County typically receives about $30 million from affordable housing developments, and this current year they're expected to receive maybe $3 million. So this exemption is, and it's caught on, and again, it's a tax program that we have no control over, but the intention is for it to go up to 100% nonprofit owned, should this legislation pass, which is great for that exemption. So generally for-profit businesses or apartment or complexes that provide affordable housing that has been undefined as well, will likely have to resume paying property taxes again in the future if it passes.
I'm so glad that the city manager mentioned this. This has been aggravating for the last couple of years since we started running into this. I think everybody wants to support affordable housing, but this has really been taken advantage of by large out out of corporations that have no relation to the city of Roanoke Rapids, but they're taking advantage of this to avoid property taxes and making substantial profits. And so it's a loophole that I and a lot of municipal attorneys would like to see closed. But it's also an example of the way that, we talk about revenues going down, and I know we've talked a lot about that tonight, but the revenues are the money that is coming into the city going down over the years. And this is one of the ways that goes down, is when the law changes like this, or these programs get created that reduce the amount coming into municipalities like us, and it's being made by, it's decisions being made by folks at the legislature that don't have to deal with the city budgets. So I'm really glad that she picked that up and articulated it as well as she did, because it really would be of a benefit if they closed that loophole.
So we're having to provide services for these owners of these,
The same city services we provide.
so we pick up trash and they don't pay us any property taxes whatsoever? That's just, I didn't know that.
I'm sorry. It's on the building. Of course, a lot of these larger housing developments, and Public Works can probably speak to this, would have their own kind of
Dumpster.
trash services. They'd have their own dumpster that would be taken care of by a private thing. But the folks that live in those apartments use the same city roads. Just like every other piece of property in the city that's not owned by a governmental entity. It's taxed. That's the way we get our. That's the main part of our revenue. And the more blocks that we cut out in the city that we don't get revenue for, that affects our final income, bottom line.
And when it addresses an apartment complex, so you think you've got a few hundred people probably per site, and those are residents that live, work, stay, ride the streets, generate refuse, and so I would be more comfortable with the loophole if the money went right back into the properties themselves, where we weren't having to do nuisance abatements and things like that as well. But the loophole has led to significant revenue reductions statewide, and as a consequence of that, there is an effort in the General Assembly right now to close that loophole. But I was just pulled up the information I gave you from the last meeting, and if you note on the schedule there, from 2026, or the change from one year to the next in releases and adjustments is 1.88 million, or a negative $632,000 difference. Or I'm sorry, negative 632% difference. So, in the tax year 2025, releases and adjustments were about $300,000. Projected for 2026 is $1,589,603.
So just an example.
As an example, so you'll see how it's affecting us locally.
We're seeing a lot of this on the federal level. Fraud and people saying they had businesses and they didn't have any people coming and that type of thing. And so, as I ride around our little small town, I see businesses and I'm like, they don't seem like they ever open, or I don't ever see anybody coming in or going out. I wonder what they're doing. And I had asked the Main Street director, and I'd like to maybe address it again, if there was some way that we could get a 1 or 2 paragraph about what they do. What they're doing in that building. And I mean, if they can't show where it looks like they have a legitimate business, or they say they're a nonprofit, is what you say, I mean, are they doing what they say they're doing? I think that's something that the public would be real unhappy about if it came sifted on down to our small community like it has in some of these larger communities. Because I personally have had some people speak to me about getting really large grants and those type things, and then you wonder, well, what kind of program, what are you doing to receive that much money? Because it's our money. it's our tax money that money's going to.
Well, the city of our place, so, just for the record. And again, our Main Street Director is working on some things, and she's going to mention some of this, but, because when you had talked about more of a kind of a directory or something, she showed me today something she's got in the works that is coming up, that would be very helpful, but, again, just wanted to ask Ashley to share a few words, about some things going on in the community.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, I will respond to one of the things that you mentioned. Right now, we have a significant amount of business outreach that's happening. The Main Street Advisory Committee, I have a committee member that's going out with me. We've been out 7 times. Main Street has gone directly to businesses, including the 100 through 800 blocks of Roanoke Avenue, the 100 through 700 blocks of Jackson Street, portions of East and West 10th and 11th Street. On those visits, we talked about what it is that those businesses, what they do. That's one. Also, the type of communication or the way they would like to receive communication, specifically from the Main Street Department, whether that's through email, phone calls, dropping by. I was surprised by as many that said, oh, you can just drop by. I was like, okay, that works. And so that was great. And then also, we asked them about their interests, concerns, and needs to get some direct feedback from business owners and help just rebuild this program. So once we complete that, I will be sure to give you a more robust report on it, but that is something that's happening right now. Also, we've been talking quite a bit about Liberty on Main. Main Street is coordinating the city's July 4th Parade and Festival, which is tied to America 250. This includes our parade, our vendor and participant coordination, public safety and planning, working with our Public Works Department, and then having just that family-friendly programming. This event, it's not really just an activity, it's really a way to bring people together, create foot traffic, and also when we spoke, for instance, to those businesses in the Main Street District, we told them that we would like to have their information on an information table there so that the people who are coming to the event can learn more about, well, what businesses really are downtown and uptown. So let's see, I do want to share that there will be music, there will be vendors, there's going to be a kids splashdown where the fire department will have a truck out and the children can get all wet, or the kids at heart, and then of course our parade route that's on Hamilton Street. We are still seeking vendors. You do need to apply by June 15th, and that's at mainstreetronocrapids.com/250. There will also be a schedule of events, which that schedule will also come out, but we are going to have a most patriotic contest and then a trivia showdown and maybe a little bit of music there as well. Additionally, I'd like to share with you all the Wave Makers Youth Entrepreneurship Program that has launched. This is a youth entrepreneurship program designed to help middle and high school students learn about business basics, creativity, problem solving, and confidence, so that when they see problems, they see it as an opportunity to come up with solutions, and that's really what we want to have from our young people. We've been working with this. This is also in support from Halifax Community College, as well as Innovative Networking Group. So this is a 4-day program. It will be June 8th through the 11th. This is going to be at no cost to participants. Breakfast will be served. Students must be rising 7th to 12th graders. If they are interested, they want to explore entrepreneurship in a hands-on, low-pressure environment. It will be from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at City Hall, 1040 Roanoke Avenue. And for more information on any of these, you can always contact me at 252-533-2838. And the Main Street Wave Makers program applications are at mainstreetronocrapids.com/wavemakers. There also has been some beautification. If you drove down Roanoke Avenue, you may have seen the beautiful begonias that have been put into the planters. I'd like to give a special thank you to a teacher from Roanoke Rapids High School, Karen Foote, and her students. They came out and helped with planting some plants that we were able to get. Cassidy over at Littleton plant farm, chose some that would be able to last throughout the season until the first frost, so you'll see those looking beautiful. And then the great thing about what was happening is that this turned into even more of a community event. So we had the students that came out, but then we had Belinda and Wes Starling, who are from Stevens Outlet. They said, hey, we see what you all are doing. We want these planters on our side also. So we now have planters on both sides on the 1000 block, and they were not all funded by the city. Some of those were private investment into the way that things look here in our community. And also Melissa Harris, Tony Eves from the Meal Coffee and Eatery. We thank them so much as well for all that they're doing right on the avenue with those beautification. Let's see. And then I wanted to share with you all that for Liberty on Main, as well as for other programs, as I mentioned, we spoke with the business owners, but we also wanted to speak with the community. So I had the pleasure of attending an event for seniors where I had a senior community survey where instead of just hosting events or hoping that we know what people want, we actually ask people and we get that feedback so that we know that what we're doing is what people are actually interested in. We got some great feedback. One of the things that I do want to let seniors know, they were interested in having a senior seating area, being able to have shaded rest area, and being able to have parking that is accessible so they won't have long walks for our event. And we will absolutely make sure that happens. And we will try our best to include Motown, beach music, and line dancing at our event as well. So that is what I have for you all right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. And I also have flyers for Liberty on Main and the Wave Makers.
Glad to see about the entrepreneurship. Do you know there's a community college office and entrepreneurship courses?
Yes, so I'm working with Kelly Barber with the Halifax Community College's Small Business Network, and she is the one that is going to assist with 2 of my days. She's providing some subject matter experts for me. So is that what you were referring to, or the, yes, and so what we are hoping is that then these students will be able to transition later and take these classes and stay here in Roanoke Rapids. We want our people, our young people, to learn here and stay here, not learn and then take all that good stuff elsewhere. So we're starting young. We're starting with those 7th through 12th graders, so yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, and for sharing those updates on the Main Street program. And if I could just add one more comment here. I don't want to underscore one thing here, and I should have said this at the onset. To the department heads, my management team, all the work y'all put into, and your support staff, all the work that you put into developing and identifying your needs, I know it feels like you put in all this work. I've done it before. I still continue to put all this work, identifying your needs, getting estimates, finding out what you need, and then you find out at the end of all of it, oh, well, we can't afford to do any of this. And then oftentimes that leads to, and we've seen it over the years, at least in my tenure here, people stop asking for it. Those needs continue to go undocumented. And since I took the position of city manager, I've been committed to saying we need to annually identify these needs and continue talking about them annually and keeping them on the record, because when there are certain funding opportunities that come up, potential grants, or I guess anything, those are documented needs on the record that show. So if something happens one day, or you lose a facility or lose a piece of equipment, you say, well, I've asked for it for the last 6 budget years, but we couldn't afford it. So again, thank you for those efforts. I know it's tiresome and it's cumbersome, but thank you for the time it takes to do so and for the service that you do for our community. I know public service is a thankless job. I'll speak on behalf of all the employees. We care. We care about this community. We care about improving it. We care so much that we go beyond, and now I'm starting to understand why school teachers had to start asking for so many supplies, because they're continuing to do their job and aren't getting the resources to do it. I hope we don't ever get that point, but we continually asking agencies or other sponsors to help fund and support that, and so that will not go unmet. But keep up the good work. I'm proud to work among you, to stand up among you, and open to any comments that y'all may have along the way concerning the budget. But keep your heads up. We'll be a team and work through this together. So thank you.
All right, Ms. Johnson for finance.
Okay, for the month of April, the year-to-date total receipts, we're at 17.2 million. Year-to-date expenditures is at 16 million. Right now, revenues expenditures, by 1.2 million. We still have more revenue to receive. We have ad valorem for May and June, motor vehicle for May and June, sales and use tax for March through June, hold harmless March through June, our utility franchise tax, quarterly payment in June, a beer and wine payment in May, and, of course, the residential and commercial solid waste for May and June. So we'll keep receiving those revenues probably all the way till the end of August. So do you have any questions?
How's that compare with where we were last year at this time?
Actually, we are right there. Last year at this time, we were we're right dead even, 84%.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anybody have any questions from Finance Director? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Anything else that needs to come before the council tonight? If not, we need to call for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Stainback, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bright. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Stand adjourned. Thank you.